I am not a successful YouTuber who has everything figured out. I'm not the best storyteller in the world. And obviously I'm not even the best cinematographer because my head is hitting these branches. I don't have it all figured out. So badly do I want to be one of these vlogging entrepreneurs who documents their beautiful life. And I'll get there one day, but I need some help. If you don't know me, my name is Tim Forkin. I'm a 24-year-old video editor, content producer. I work for a company called HeyCreator. And in the past, I've done videos for Adobe, the rapper Logic, NBA teams. Part of my role at HeyCreator is running some of our community calls. And recently I got picked on by our founder, Darrell Vesterfelt, to ask the first question in one of our deeper calls. So I'm just gonna play some parts of this clip of me asking him questions. I can't lie, it gets pretty vulnerable, pretty deep. It's almost turns into therapy, but I got a ton out of it and I think you will too. And I'll come back at the end and talk about it. Let's go. We've talked about this before when we were in person in Columbus, yep. But there's that constant feeling of I should be doing just a little bit more. And I think I have been lately, especially with my YouTube channel. I'm getting back into the editing for clients mode. And I want all of that to be more. I want to make more videos. I want to work with more clients. I want to do better with everything we're doing here at HeyCreator. I have a constant feeling of the more piece. And you are someone who I look up to who is always doing maybe more than you should even at some points. And I need to the financially and who I am in my life, I need to get into that mode, and something is holding me back from getting into that. I feel like I'm in 70% gear right now. I need to be in 100% gear, and there's something holding me back and I don't know what it is.
Lots of thoughts here. Give me a second to formulate where to start. So first of all, that feeling never goes away. So I just want to let's start that. That never ever goes away. I had a long week so far this week, just a lot going on. I was in Ohio for a day, back home, just a lot happening. At 7:30, I closed my computer last night and I just laid in bed and watched a football game. And I was as I'm sitting there, I'm hey, you could be doing X, Y, and Z instead of sitting here watching this football game right now. And I just think that never goes away, Tim. It's not about the amount that you do. It's about the prioritization of the things you do. And so it's I think, my output, you're in your mid 20s.
Yeah, I'll be 25 soon here.
When I was in my mid 20s, I had a lot less capacity than I do when I'm 39 now, right? And it's not because all of a sudden I can do more. It's because I'm doing less of the things that aren't getting me to where I want to go and more of the things that are getting me where I want to go. And some of that stuff is that's trial and error. One of the things that had helped me with that more than anything else was being a parent. And it's I was all of a sudden, it wasn't just up to me. It was if I want to actually hang out with my little girl, I've got to make sure that the time that I'm working is more effective. And it's just a weird mental shift that's happened for me where it's okay, I've got less time to do the same amount of stuff. How am I going to figure it out? So I think the question I would have, Tim, is not as long as you're an entrepreneur, the work will never be done. You will never be able to say, I've done everything I possibly can do. So that will never, ever go away. The question is, what am I doing now that is not contributing to where I want to go? And can I replace it with more of the things that are going to get me where I want to go? And the second that you get to a point where you think you've done everything that you've done, that is a flashing red light that something's wrong. It's a huge red light. Something's wrong here because I don't have the around the corner thing. I don't have the next thing in front of me. And you want to find the balance of I'm repositioning so much, and some of this behind the scenes, I'm repositioning so much of this stuff right now where it's I don't want to be in a overly anxious spot that I'm not getting everything done, but I also don't want to have nothing ahead of me either, right? You've got to find the right balance of okay, I'm going to bed and you know what? I've got 7 things to do tomorrow that I didn't get done today, but you don't want 70 things. And I'm just making arbitrary numbers here, but yeah. The kind of point is you want to find and strike that balance. And I view this as a little bit of a frequency, right? This is not a straight line into figuring this out. It's kind of wiggly and figuring it out along the way. Tim, what is something that you're doing that's not helping you get where you want to go? That's preventing you. Let me reframe this again. This is a good exercise for everybody. Tim, what is one thing that you should be doing that you're not doing right now? Just one thing.
Waking up an hour earlier.
Okay. What is stopping you from doing that?
How I feel in the morning.
Okay. How do you feel in the morning?
Like I don't want to get out of bed like that instant. Like I have a forcing function of like Liv's coming home from being a nurse, I got to make breakfast. Like that's a
Yep,
good forcing function. But like
yep.
even if I had that hour before that to like just plan something or write something,
Yep.
preferably write something in that hour instead of just like going through the motions to get to the point where breakfast has to be ready 7:30 when she walks in the door type
So
deal.
question, is the feeling valid? The feeling of being too tired to get out of bed, is it a valid feeling? Are you getting enough sleep?
Uh, Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Why is that inconsistent?
Uh, this almost feels this feels almost like a more even personal than just like
It's exactly personal. It's exactly
um
right.
sometimes I'm up late working on something creative. Sometimes I am watching football like last night.
Yep.
Last night I caught up with friends, so that was like important to me. But like a mix of
I
different
think
things. I don't have a
so. I think
particular
that's
thing.
it, right? It's like there's an inconsistency with a factor that contributes to you having the energy to wake up
Hmm.
at a consistent time in the morning, right? So it's like, hey, I'm wanting a consistent wake up time, but I'm having an inconsistent go to bed time.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. That makes sense to me, right?
Hmm.
So the question then is like, how worth it is that 1 hour to you? Is it worth the sacrifice of seeing the end of a football game that you
Yeah.
maybe care about or maybe don't care about? Is it worth the sacrifice of whatever the other things are? It's like you're just like it's a competing priorities, right?
Yeah.
So it's not about it's like the game is constantly like deciding what priorities get me to where I want to go,
Yeah.
right? And you just can't do all the things.
Yeah. The question I have then is like, I don't mean to like take anything else over, but like I
No,
feel like
please
I'm
do this.
someone.
I think this is a good conversation for everybody, by the way. So
Okay.
keep going.
Um, the question I have with that is that I feel like I'm someone who like submits to their feelings a little bit more than I should, whether that's in the form of like procrastination or like something, a video not being good enough or like those kinds of things where I feel like I'm someone who submits to the feeling in the moment as opposed to like, um, I mean, my video like career basically could have all been changed if I had stuck with that one rappers playing basketball video that blew up a long time ago. Like, and
Yep.
the feeling, like submitting to the feelings of how I felt in that moment of being paralyzed. That's just an example. I'm not like hanging on to
Yep.
that, but submitting to the feelings in that moment took me away from what could have been a massive, like I could have been a massive YouTuber from that. Like that's just a one bigger example from myself
Yep.
where I feel like I'm someone who submits to the feeling in the moment as opposed to these past 5 6 months like HeyCreator stuff. I could have been doing a little bit more of my own work on the side to put myself in a better financial position after buying a house, like just a little bit of something.
And this, what you just explained, is called the human condition. Every person in this room can identify with that in some way or another,
Hmm.
right? So this is something that's really, really important to me because there's two things that happen in this space is like, well, I'm not going to listen to my feelings anymore. I'm just going to like shut it down and shove it out. And I'm just going to wake up whether or not I feel like it or not. And that is probably just as wrong of a way of trying to solve the problem as just like letting your feelings dictate what's going on in the moment. So the phrase that I have here is your feelings are important, just not for the reasons you think they are, right?
Hmm.
So I view feelings as like a check engine light more than I do as like a catastrophe, right?
Like a decision making tool, like in the
Correct.
moment.
Correct. So, yeah, guess what? I'm probably never going to want to go to the gym.
Hmm.
I know very few people. My good friend Brandon, he is a former bodybuilder. He is like eats clean all the time. He goes to the gym all the time. I really look up to him. Like I want to be like him someday. All the time he talks about, I don't want to do this. It's not something I want to do. But I'm making the decision in the moment that the thing I want long term is more important than the feeling I have in this moment. And that's where true power comes from, I believe. Right?
Mm.
Now, what we have to do is we have to figure out like when the check engine light is actually real and when it's just like our our kind of in the moment self trying like screaming. It's like sometimes our feelings are toddlers throwing a
Yeah.
temper tantrum because we don't want to do what like our higher self is telling us that we should do. And sometimes it's actually saying like, no, this is unsafe. And that's the human experience is deciding like what's what, right? And the only way I know how to do that, Tim, is to be retrospective and reflective. Hey, were my feelings being a 3-year-old screaming toddler throwing a temper tantrum, or was I tapped into something here? The only way to know that is in hindsight. So then in hindsight, you can say, great, that was my feelings having a 3-year-old temper tantrum. I now know next time that comes up and feels exactly like that, I'm going to just say to my 3-year-old temper tantrum feeling self, hey, buddy, sorry, you got to do this anyways. This is going to be good for you in the long run. You're going to like the outcome of it. And this is like a psychological term called reparenting yourself.
Yeah,
Uh,
that
and so
hits.
it's kind of like you're reparenting this little boy inside of you is like, but I don't want to get up.
Yeah.
And it's like, I have a 5-year-old, and today she's the sweetest little girl. She did not want to get out of bed. And I was like, all right, we do our thing. It's like, I'm going to count to 3 and you need to get out of bed. 1. She's like, I don't like you very
Yeah.
much. And then 6 minutes later, we're laughing and tickling each other and getting dressed, you know?
Mhm.
And so it's like, but it's like in that moment, like I needed to be the parent and say to my 5-year-old, it's time to get out of bed. I'm sorry that you don't want to. This is going to be good for you. We've got to get going to school, whatever else. So the only way to do that, Tim, is to like have a practice of retrospection.
Mhm.
And so it's like, great, this morning I slept in instead of getting out of bed. Was that my body telling me that I needed to do something and I actually needed the rest? Or was this my temper tantrum feelings
Yep.
dictating what's going on? So that's the trick. We can't shut our feelings down, but we can't let them control us. There needs to be a higher minded self that decides which version of this is me. I can decide. And what you're saying here, this is the battle that will never end for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Right. And this is the practice. As long as we can continually to improve this, you'll constantly keep growing where you need to grow. Like I go through phases where I'm just like, I'm failing at this in a pretty alarming rate where my feelings are dictating exactly what I don't want to be doing all the time. Right.
Mhm.
And then it's like, okay, great. Time out. Like higher minded self's got to decide. I want this thing in the future more than I want this thing right now. So my feelings don't get to determine how I'm going to behave right now. Now I don't need to pretend like those feelings aren't there, but I got to reparent those feelings a little bit. So
Yep.
high theory, little coaching session, but this is the battle, buddy, forever. And so
Yep.
I think it's like, don't beat yourself up in the same way that I wouldn't like go like shame my 5-year-old daughter this morning for not wanting to get out of bed. It's
Mhm.
like that doesn't help either. Be like, oh, you're an idiot. Like, get out of bed. You should be getting out of bed every morning. That's a
Yeah.
horrible way to have a relationship with yourself, right?
Yeah.
But you do need to hold it accountable too. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
I do want to get up. I do want to get up an hour earlier. This hour, I know you very quickly, Tim, said, what's one thing that you know you should be doing that you're not doing? You very quickly said waking up an hour earlier. Great.
Yeah.
Higher minded Tim needs to decide, is it worth me missing a couple things in the evening to go to bed on a consistent time? Is it worth me putting my feelings and emotional check to get this thing that I know that I want long term? So
Yeah.
cool.
The reparenting term is kind of like you mentioned, like the two sides of like shaming and then like letting it go. I definitely think I was raised on like a letting it go style
Yeah.
parenting. And like when you said reparenting, that kind of hit for me as like I am in control to like bring that back towards the middle as opposed to
Right.
like how I was raised. So yeah, that's
And you get
very
you get to be, and we're getting into like pretty deep psychology stuff
yeah,
here, but
yeah.
you get to be the parent that you wanted or needed, right?
Mhm.
Or yourself now as an adult. And I
Yep.
think that's a really powerful concept where it's like no parent is perfect. Even the best parents in the world weren't perfect. But it's like retrospection is such a powerful thing. Great. Now I'm seeing this feeling. How would I have wanted to be parent in that moment? I get to choose to do that for myself right now. So
Yep.
lots there, but this everybody is such a powerful concept and term because nobody in the room goes to bed and it's like, I did everything that I knew I was supposed to today. I was 100% perfect. It's just not possible. That is an
Yep.
impossible task. So also don't hold yourself to an unrealistic expectation or standard. Just like improve every day. Improve every day.
Yep.
So cool.
Thank you.
Thanks for letting us push in on that. I know you're trying to wiggle out of it a little earlier, but I think this is really helpful for lots of people in the room. So
Yeah.
So I just watched that alongside you. So if you're still here, thank you. This is like one of the most impactful things that I've watched or been a part of in a long time. We do this all the time in the HeyCreator community. I was just lucky enough for Darrell to pick on me to ask a question this time. So if you're looking for a place to join a group of like-minded creators who are just trying to make it, just trying to figure it out like I am, you should join the HeyCreator community. Second of all, I want to hit on a few things. The first thing, the most recent thing, is that reparenting point that Darrell mentioned. Now, I think I had incredible parents. I am very, very happy with the way I was parented. My mom and dad are both amazing. But as I said in there, I definitely was raised more on the side of, if I wasn't feeling like doing something, it was kind of okay for me not to do it. They let a lot of stuff go, and that has manifested in who I am as an adult. Now, it doesn't make me bad, doesn't make me unproductive, doesn't make me anything. It's just something I realized about myself that could help push me to a little bit better of a situation if I am able to reparent myself in that way, to hold myself more accountable. The other thing is that question Darrell asked, and I'll ask you, what is one thing you should be doing that you are not doing right now? For me, it is getting up an hour earlier and writing, having more clearer thoughts in my day. Maybe it even is sitting in front of this camera and talking to the camera more. I can sit here and name a million things I wish I was doing instead of the things I do now. The scrolling on social media, the fantasy football obsession, exercising more, sleeping more. I could go on and on. But we all have these things, so pick one of them, try to solve it, and let me know how it goes. And if you want to jam about this stuff, please send me an email. I love hopping on calls and kind of having these kinds of moments with other people, because I know that I need other people to figure this out. I definitely level up in the conversations with other creators. So if you're someone who just wants to chat about this kind of stuff, send me a DM on Twitter, send me an email. I'd love to talk. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.